And I'm Ritu.
And we are Everyday Intellectuals. On this episode of Respectfully, we'll be talking about higher education during COVID-19. The United States CDC has laid out some guidelines for schools that are reopening in the fall, but they've left it up to local governments and specific colleges in terms of next steps. Ritu, what do you think?
Yeah, respectfully, I read the CDC guideline and I just think it's very vague. Where is the federal standardization? You know, they should be providing standardizations for different scenarios for low income communities or, you know, what happens for kids that have special needs. And it really needs to be federally mandated. And local government and colleges should adopt from that or, you know, adapt that and change it based on the community and different scenarios. But but overall, I think it should be federally determined.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially with colleges where people can potentially be going to school out of state. Yeah. I think the government needs to take more accountability.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I also just don't understand with even just the concept of opening up schools in person is, are we really putting the accountability that every student is going to practice safe social distancing? I mean, respectfully, let's go back just a couple months ago. Kids were throwing COVID parties. Are we expecting them to grow up and have this maturity overnight?
It's completely unrealistic.
It's super unrealistic.
But so is there any kind of scenario that you can see in the United States where colleges reopen completely on campus and they don't spread coronavirus?
I mean, I don't think there's any effective way to contain an outbreak if you open the schools in person. You can try. There are studies done by Harvard and Yale where they tested, a residential campus. They had around 5,000 students and they tested students every couple days. The problem with the testing itself, the testing kits were only 70 to 90% accurate, which I think is a little ridiculous. At this point, we're so many months into the pandemic, we should be having 99% accuracy in our testing.
Yeah, I agree.
But overall, the study resulted in the fact that 10 students out of the 5,000 still were infected with COVID, but they were asymptomatic, which I feel like is definitely worse because you can pass it on to faculty. You can pass it on to members in the community. Where is that, what happens after students get tested?
And I think that's another really big gap that we have. It's not just the number of tests available in the United States. It's not just the reliability of those tests, but it's also the fact that there's no real tracking and tracing system in place.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lack, I feel like, federally. I mean, the CDC guidelines does have, they do mention that they should be tracking down students, but overall, I don't think we federally have adopted that policy in the United States. I mean, you have countries like South Korea, Australia and New Zealand who have adopted this so-called track and trace method where they're really, any person with COVID, they're basically tracking down any individuals in contact and isolating them.
Right. And that's how they've been able to handle their pandemic so effectively within just a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, they're chilling. Let's be honest.
They really are.
South Korea is,
they're living a different life.
They're living a very different life. I'm actually more concerned about what happens. And I think overall, in terms of not even just school, just overall, what's going to happen during flu season?
Everything bursts into flames, Ritu.
Yeah, if you think this is a shit show, I can't even imagine what the flu season is going to look like.
No, it's going to be horrible.
Yeah, we were hoping, or country was hoping to flatten the curve in the summer. That clearly didn't happen. We missed the mark entirely. But when flu season hits, you're going to see the same issues that we had at the beginning of the pandemic. You're going to see hospitals overwhelmed, lack of, ventilators. You're going to get, even worse, you're going to get co-infections. So people are going to be dually infected with both the flu and coronavirus. So we don't even know what that's going to look like. Not to mention the data is going to be super conflated. Not that it was accurate to begin with.
Yeah, I think especially with college campuses, one of the things that concerns me the most is that some schools really rely on on-campus health services. Mm-hmm. And if actual hospitals around the country are becoming overwhelmed, how are these on-campus resources going to be able to keep up with outbreaks of the virus during flu season?
That's actually a really good point because it's not really going to affect campuses like, UCLA, USC that have research centers and full-blown hospitals. What about public schools that don't have the facilities? Do they have ventilators on campus? Because hospitals will eventually get flooded. So how is that going to work? I don't know if there's entirely a plan set in place.
Right. But the good thing is that there's only 2.5% of schools in the country that have completely reopened.
Yeah.
So every other school is either undecided or having at least some percentage of their classes online.
Well, for the undecided ones, this is very concerning. We are approaching the school year. Get your ish together.
Yeah, seriously.
It's good that there's only 2.5% colleges that are going to open fully in person. But you are seeing colleges that were boasting about their preparation and all of the measures they were going to take, like the University of North Carolina. 1 week into classes, they have had to close the school and move to virtual learning. So you are seeing that shift regardless. And I think as we see, more number of cases on campus, you're going to see the shift that people are eventually going to be doing online or dual.
Right. Even more.
Yeah.
But then that brings a whole nother set of questions.
Yeah. And that's why I was going to ask you, what's your thoughts on online versus in person?
So this one's tough. I know a lot of people have different opinions about this. In terms of the data, there's no conclusive evidence that online education is better or worse than in-person education. So I personally think it just depends on each institution and the preparation that they've done this summer.
Yeah, I agree. I think some students will need in-person, like special needs, low-income families. They really do benefit from in-person.
Right.
I do have a more pessimistic view in terms of if the universities will be able to change the online curriculum to really make it worth paying full tuition. I feel like the education system is a little obsolete and we have a long ways to go. But if they can revamp the system, I think it's very possible that we can move towards more of an online education.
This begs the question, should students be paying full tuition?
I do not think students should be paying for full tuition. I think academics aside, students are missing out on this whole college experience. I mean, some kids are freshmen that are supposed to be going into college this fall. They're missing out on, sporting events. They're missing out on campus lifestyle. They're missing out on joining organizations. These are integral parts of your college experience. Helps you build who you are as a person.
No, I agree. I think, those years are really important for just gaining maturity, gaining, a point of reference of other people who are different from you, learning how to work with others. There's so much more than just what you're learning in the classroom.
You're learning time management. Some people are learning to be independent. It's a lot of, social growth and maturity. And I think you can't really get that just by taking classes and watching videos online.
Sure.
And I guess that transitions into the fact that what are the alternatives? What can kids do if they don't want to pay for full tuition?
So that's I think where kids are really stuck, because even if you don't want to pay full tuition for getting an online/hybrid education, the issue is there's not that many other alternatives, right? So you could potentially have a gap year, but really for each institution, there's only a certain number of slots available and kids have to apply.
Yeah. So you definitely have to apply and you have to offer a plan of what you're going to do in that gap year.
Exactly.
So it's a whole year that you take off. In comparison to deferments, where, correct me if I'm wrong, that's only really a semester that you take off versus an entire year.
Right. But again, that's something you have to get approval from for your school. Otherwise, if you just don't show up, then you might potentially have to reapply to that institution. And I think that's especially for students who are returning students, they may not be considered even eligible for a gap year in the first place because colleges are worried that those kids are what they call stop outs, which means that they're stopping going to school for right now, but they'll eventually drop out. So I think it's even more of a tight spot for returning students.
Yeah. And then they also have, a lot of students have been taking this option of community college where they're taking credits or classes at community college. But the problem with that is some of those classes aren't even transferable.
Right.
So you're running that risk.
What are your final thoughts?
I definitely don't envy students who are going to school. I mean, I feel like they're definitely stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Oh, absolutely.
And my heart does go out to students who are trying to figure out this new plan. They haven't really been given enough time. We only hope that it works out for them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we somehow manage to put a pin on this pretty quickly.
I mean, I doubt it, but we can hope. One can hope.
Right. And also let's hope that things don't return to normal, but to some better version than that.
Yeah, I agree. And just touching back on all our points, I do think that it's definitely going to be really difficult to contain the virus. So I don't think in person is the best solution, just as, we're facing the outbreak right now and we don't have really a vaccine. We both agree we don't think students should be paying full tuition.
No.
But we hope that colleges do take the opportunity to really refine the education system. I mean, this is your opportunity to really make online curriculums versatile.
Right.
Get creative. This is the time to really fix the gaps. I think one thing that I do appreciate about this pandemic is we're seeing a lot of flaws in our system. And it's given us the opportunity to work towards maybe a better system or giving the opportunities to fix something that we didn't realize was broken in the first place.
Right. And that's where we'd love to hear your guys' thought. Let us know in the comments what sort of issues in the education system are you hoping to see resolved? What have your experiences been with education during COVID? And let us know if you agree or disagree with our points. We can't wait to hear from you.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.